So I'm going to start the top of the show. I'm going to talk about the Celtics because the Robert Williams injury, I'm just going off the top. The Robert Williams injury, the torn meniscus. Exactly, Cam. I'm getting some international love for real. The Robert Williams injury is devastating to the Celtics. Like, just when I saw the tweet, I want to say I saw either Shams tweeted or Woj, got him on notice. When I saw the tweet that he has a torn meniscus and then had to undergo surgery for it, I was like, man. And it's the main reason is the Celtics defense is amazing, right? This season they have the number one defense in the NBA, defensive rating, I should say. They have the number one defensive rating in the NBA, number 8 offensive rating in the NBA, and the number 2 net rating in the NBA. The Robert Williams injury hurts them so much, hurts their defense a lot because quiet as kept, Robert Williams was low-key about to make one of my all-defensive teams. And low-key, he probably still will. Let's keep it a B. He probably still will. I think he should be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year considerations. His counting stats might not have been crazy. To be honest, I'll keep it. I don't, off the top of my head, I'm going to pull it up. I don't even know what his counting stats were. Why can't I find Robert Williams? Robert Williams, thank you. His counting stats, which is wild. No, his counting stats aren't crazy. You're looking at 10 points a game, 2 blocks, which is actually really solid. 9 rebounds, 9.6, give him 10 rebounds. So if you look at his counting stats, no, they're not crazy. The blocks are high. 2 blocks a game is actually really, really good in the NBA. I'm not sure where he's ranking among block leaders, if you will. But those are good numbers. But when you watch the Celtics games, what he's able to do for them defensively, he gives them what, to an extent, he gives what Draymond Green gives the Warriors on defense. The ability to be able to switch a little bit. He's able to contain some guards a little bit on the pick and roll. He's able to play way bigger than he actually is. Robert Williams is only, 6'9"? He's 6'8", according to Basketball Reference. I thought he was at least 6'9". He did so much for this team's defense. So much for this team's defense. And then you have to wonder, okay, so what are they going to do? He had torn his meniscus in his knee. Now, he got surgery. Let me see. Let me play this for y'all. Right. So he tore his meniscus in his knee. Am I saying meniscus? Yes. Torn meniscus in his left knee. He had surgery yesterday or earlier today. I can't remember. It was either yesterday or earlier today. They say this surgery went well. This is what Celtics head coach had to say about that today. Let me just turn this music down real quick so I can play this for y'all. After this segment, can I give an opinion on Grizzlies to the playoffs? I got you, Cam. This is what Celtics head coach had to say about the injury or about the surgery. Make sure I got sound.
Optimistic because the surgery went as well. Yeah, the main thing is optimistic because the surgery went as well as it could. Obviously the better option, to have the option that he did versus being out the long term. And so you look at that 4 to 6 week window and look at cases in the past and how fast guys have come back. And so he'll hit the ground running pretty much tomorrow and start getting some 2-a-day work in and try to ramp it up from there. And so, like I said, the surgery went well and he had the best case scenario we could be looking for. So guys will step up and hold it down and with the plan of him coming back at some point.
So this is actually my first time watching that as well. Sometimes I like to do that to get my honest reaction on the stream. I didn't know. 2 things I took away from this. One, head coaches is hopeful. I mean, to an extent, you expect him to be helpful. You expect him to be optimistic. These are, I guess I'll say, standard NBA things or standard things that an NBA head coach would say when one of your starting players has a surgery at a crucial point in the season. The other thing I took away from that was the fact that he said he's basically going to start work immediately. So like starting tomorrow, he's going to be starting work, getting back in the gym, starting the road to recovery almost immediately. That's a good sign, because initially I thought, okay, he might have to take a couple of days to not do anything. The fact that this surgery at least seems not as invasive as it could have been, considering he's able to get back to work almost immediately. 4 to 6 weeks, that puts the Celtics on the fast end, maybe in the beginning of some time in the second round of the NBA playoffs, or in the middle of the second round of the NBA playoffs. It really just depends on how long the first round goes. If the first round is a bunch of sweeps and we look up and the second round's happening quickly, it might be a little dicey for the Celtics. We might not see him immediately in the second round. But if the first round takes a little longer, especially whoever their opponent is, we'll talk about, honestly, we'll look at some potential playoff brackets later in the episode, or the show today, excuse me. If it takes the first round a little bit of time, that 4 to 6 window might put them right sometime in the middle of the second round of the playoffs. Now, if he comes back in the second round of the playoffs and he's looking like himself, I think the Celtics pick up right where they left off and they're rolling again. I think they're going to miss him. They're going to miss the defensive impact that he brings. They're definitely going to miss it. Right now, the Celtics are third in the Eastern Conference, but I mean, to be honest with you, that's not saying much, because just 2 days ago they were first at the Eastern Conference and they would have had to play the Nets in the first round. The 1 through 4 spot in the Eastern Conference it's full of turmoil right now. So it's hard to really make a prediction on where I see the Celtics landing in terms of where I see them playing in the second round, like who they might play in the second round. But as of right now, 3 seed, they'd play the Raptors. They should be able to beat the Raptors even without Robert Williams, mainly because the Raptors don't have a crazy inside presence. They have Pascal Siakam, they have Fred VanVleet, they have guys who drive to the basket, but it's not like they have a Joel Embiid, a Giannis, somebody who imposes a force on the paint. You know what I mean? So they should be okay if they had to face the Raptors. Honestly, they should be okay if they had to face the Cavaliers. I'd be worried about them if they had to face the Nets. We'll talk about the Nets in a little bit. The Nets are just... It almost makes you wonder if you want to avoid the 1 seed just because there's a potential that you have to play the Nets. But because even this bottom tier is so close, the Nets go on a couple of wins. Next thing you know, they're the 7th seed or they're the 6th seed. So you can't really purposely lose games or not play as well as you think you can if you're these 1 through 3 seeds, or even the 1 through 4 seeds, including the Sixers, because they're only 1 game back, to try to avoid the Nets. You're just either going to be stuck with the Nets or you're not going to be stuck with the Nets, because the conference is so close in terms of record. Let's see what you guys talking about. Conference finals. Hope he recovers well. They kind of skinny. Who's kind of skinny? Kerwick. Oh, the Celtics without him? Yeah, I mean, they don't have a lot of size. And then you started talking about or thinking about who the Celtics are going to put in that starting lineup. I saw some people say put Theis in there. I don't want to see Theis in the starting lineup. I'd rather see Horford get a lot of minutes in the starting lineup and maybe bump somebody up to play. Oh, yeah, the Raptors, yes, they are skinny. The Raptors are a skinny team. They're a smaller team. That's what I'm saying. I think they'd be okay against the Raptors because they don't really have somebody who's an imposing force in the paint. I think the Celtics would benefit from playing Horford maybe at the 5 and run a lot of small ball, especially of these last few games and to that first round of the playoffs, especially if they play against the Raptors, who don't really have a huge interior presence. I think you can run small ball against the Raptors. I think you could run small ball against the Cavaliers too, because Jared Allen's out. So they have an opportunity to still come out of that first round of the playoffs. And then full strength, I really like the Celtics. At full strength, the Celtics could go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't necessarily have them as a favorite, but I think that second round matchup in the Eastern Conference is going to be very, very good. There are a lot of teams who have aspirations, at least, to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Nets, the Sixers. Those are 5 teams that I think legitimately should expect to make it to the second round of the playoffs. One of them isn't. We already know one of them. Whoever faces the Nets in the first round, one of those teams are getting knocked off. So one of the 4 teams are getting knocked off, or the Nets are getting knocked off. We're going to have a really, really good first round series in the Eastern Conference simply because the Nets are the 8th seed. So it's going to be really, really interesting for them.